Hey everyone! Thanks for joining me today. Drop your city in the comments. Where are you tuning in from? I need to tell you about the text message that broke me. It was from my cousin, Jana, the bride-to-be, and it popped up right as I was putting the final touches on a massive corporate retreat for a pharmaceutical company, a gig that paid enough to cover my mortgage for 3 months. I was on the 22nd floor of a Chicago skyscraper, feeling on top of the world. The message read, "So glad you'll be handling the kids at the wedding, Sierra. Saved us a fortune. We're expecting about 15 under 10, maybe more. Bring activities. See you soon. Love you." Handling the kids. She didn't ask. She informed me. Not as a guest, but as a hired hand, and for free. I stood there, staring at the panoramic view of Lake Michigan, feeling the blood drain from my face. 15 children, all night, at her incredibly lavish 6-figure wedding. I was supposed to be a guest, her cousin. But before the pure, incandescent rage could set in, my best friend, Marcus, my former business partner and current sanity checker, called. He'd seen the family email thread I'd been ignoring. He pulled me aside, metaphorically, over the phone, whispering, "Sierra, it's worse than the babysitting gig. They're not just being cheap about the wedding. They've been hiding this for years. Jana's fiancé, Brendan, is running something illegal, and they're leveraging you to cover the paper trail." I'm Sierra Novak. I'm 38, and I'm a successful freelance event coordinator. I spent 10 years in Chicago, scraping my way up from intern to running million-dollar events. I finally moved back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin last year, partly for a slower pace, but mostly to be closer to my large, sprawling German-American family. The Novaks are big on community, big on tradition, and very big on guilt. My career is organizing events, but my family's idea of my career is that I'm the one who plays party games for money. My flaw, the one that got me into this mess, is that for all my professional success, I still desperately craved my family's genuine respect, not just their constant, unspoken expectation of free labor. The setup for Jana and Brendan's wedding had been an emotional minefield for months. Jana, my cousin, was marrying Brendan, an investment banker whose family was rumored to be exceptionally wealthy. The wedding was set to be the social event of the year for our community, held at the historic Pfister Hotel. The budget was obscene: caviar, ice sculptures, a live band flown in from New York. The red flags started small, fluttering subtly in the periphery of my life. First, the requests from Jana that were really demands. "Can you manage the RSVPs, Sierra? You're so good at spreadsheets." "Can you coordinate the vendors? You already have the contacts." I did it, telling myself it was a wedding gift. But the professional requests quickly bled into the personal. Brendan, the smooth, handsome fiancé, was the biggest red flag of all. He was too perfect, always subtly bragging about his private investments and encouraging family members, especially the older, less financially savvy ones, to let him manage their portfolios. I noticed his constant, secretive phone calls, always stepping into the other room. I chalked it up to being a busy executive. Then came the missing funds. Not mine, but my Aunt Clara's, the sweetest woman in the family. She'd quietly mentioned to me that the $20,000 she'd saved for a new roof had been invested in one of Brendan's opportunities and was currently inaccessible. When I looked skeptical, Brendan swooped in with a practiced, soothing smile, assuring me it was just market volatility. The babysitting request was the ultimate insult. They were saving thousands by forcing me, a professional whose hourly rate for coordinating an event is over $200, to wrangle 15 toddlers for 12 hours. It was a calculated act of disrespect, a clear message. Your professional worth means nothing to us. You are only family when we need something for free. The sheer audacity of the demand, and Jana's assumption of my compliance, was what finally snapped my accommodating nature. I canceled my Chicago corporate retreat, explaining I had a family emergency. I had to focus entirely on taking down this charade. Marcus, an IT specialist, was my first call, and he immediately became my co-conspirator. The goal was no longer about skipping the babysitting. It was about protecting my family from financial ruin and exposing Brendan's true motives. My first suspicion was that the money saved on professional childcare and coordination was padding the already enormous wedding budget. But Marcus suggested we look wider. Nobody this obsessed with optics pinches pennies unless the real money is going somewhere else, Sierra. Somewhere secret. I started by looking into Brendan's firm. He claimed to be a senior partner at a prestigious Milwaukee investment house. A few discreet calls to my contacts in Chicago confirmed the truth. He was a junior analyst who had been let go 6 months ago for unethical solicitation. He was using the firm's old letterhead and his family connections to mask his own failing, unauthorized business. The real revelation came when Marcus, utilizing his skills, managed to cross-reference the digital communication for the wedding, RSVPs, vendor contracts, and the banking information for the main payment accounts. He found a strange digital signature, a glitch in the vendor payment system that routed a percentage of the total wedding budget, specifically the allocated $8,000 for professional childcare and an additional $15,000 meant for Jana's dress, to an account labeled Novak Heritage Fund. "That's a Ponzi scheme, Sierra," Marcus stated, his voice grim during our video call. "It's a shell fund named to sound legitimate. He's taking the money he saved on the wedding and diverting it into his scam to keep it afloat. The $20,000 from Aunt Clara is probably in there too. He's leveraging the optics of a successful marriage and the trust of your community to steal their money." The betrayal was layered. Jana was either knowingly complicit or dangerously naive, but Brendan was a criminal exploiting our community's trust. I wasn't just being asked to babysit. I was being leveraged to save money that was funding a fraudulent investment scheme that threatened to bankrupt vulnerable family members. The thought of my sweet Aunt Clara losing her savings made the anger a cold, clear force. I consulted a corporate lawyer, a specialist named Ms. Chavez, who confirmed my worst fears. The Novak Heritage Fund was unregistered and showed clear signs of being an investment scam, cycling new investor money to pay off old ones. Ms. Chavez advised me on the legal steps to take, emphasizing the need for a clean public exposure that would minimize the collateral damage to the Novak name while ensuring Brendan was prosecuted. The arrest had to happen at the climax of his success, the wedding. My revenge plan was professional, precise, and utterly brutal. I would play my part up until the moment of the exposé. I utilized my own company's resources to create two things: a professional, itemized invoice for the full cost of my event coordination and childcare services, $18,750, including late-night rates, liability insurance, and a full corporate markup. A discreet, yet visually jarring presentation that would interrupt the toast, featuring the evidence of the Novak Heritage Fund and its illegal activities. The wedding day arrived with the oppressive humidity of a Milwaukee summer. Jana was radiant, Brendan looked confident, and the air was thick with expensive perfume and self-importance. I dressed impeccably, not in the dress they expected, but in a tailored power suit, my professional armor. I sat quietly during the ceremony, ignoring the glares from the mothers of the 15 children who assumed I was already on duty. The reception was held in the Pfister's opulent ballroom. As a professional, I admired the execution, but as a family member, I seethed at the waste and hypocrisy. The time for the official family toast arrived. Brendan stood up, mic in hand, beaming. "To my beautiful bride, Jana, and to our generous families who have given us so much." That was my cue. I walked up to the head table, calm and utterly composed, my power suit contrasting sharply with the wedding party's pastels. I approached Brendan, and before he could react, I placed the massive, professionally bound invoice right on top of his toast note cards. It was printed in bold, unmistakable letters. Final invoice: Sierra Novak Event Coordination Childcare Services. Total due: $18,750. A collective gasp swept through the room. "Brendan," I said, my voice cutting cleanly through the stunned silence, amplified slightly by the mic I took from his hand. "Before you thank the family for their generosity, I need to present this. Because as a professional, I cannot allow my family to believe I was working for free. I have an expense for the $8,000 child care allocation, which I see was diverted to your Novak Heritage Fund." Brendan's smile evaporated, replaced by pure animal fear. He lunged for the invoice, but it was too late. I'd given the signal to Marcus, who was operating the AV system. The screen behind the head table, meant to display a honeymoon photo montage, flickered and then displayed a massive, undeniable image. A screenshot of the Novak Heritage Fund bank account, showing the diverted wedding money alongside Aunt Clara's investment, followed by a simple message. "Financial fraud, unauthorized Ponzi scheme. Contact the Wisconsin DFI." Chaos erupted. Jana began to sob, horrified. Brendan was shouting, attempting to grab the mic, while the room dissolved into frantic whispers. Then, the inevitable. Two plainclothes officers whom Ms. Chavez had arranged to be guests moved swiftly to the head table, identifying themselves and placing Brendan under arrest for investment fraud. The sight of the man who had exploited my family being led away in cuffs, his carefully constructed life collapsing around him, was the most satisfying moment of my life. The wedding was over. The game was up. The fallout was immense. Brendan was formally charged with multiple counts of securities fraud and wire fraud by the state, primarily due to the undeniable evidence Marcus and I presented. Jana, shocked by the revelation, cooperated with the authorities, filing for a quick annulment and avoiding any charges herself. The wedding was effectively canceled, the grand reception ending with police interviews and financial shock. The money was harder to recover. The Novak Heritage Fund was frozen, but the recovery process will be long and messy. I personally fronted Aunt Clara the $20,000 for her roof, a small act of restitution that felt more important than any revenge. My family, stunned and embarrassed, finally saw me not as a free babysitter, but as the competent professional who saved them from a devastating scam. My relationship with Jana is complicated, but healing. She was a victim of his ambition, blinded by the image of success. I am now serving as her professional event coordinator for a redo party, a low-key celebration of her freedom, and this time, she's paying my full rate. I learned a powerful lesson. You don't earn respect by giving in. You earn it by upholding your value. I had allowed their sense of entitlement to dictate my worth. Now, I dictate my own. The quiet dignity I regained in the face of their exploitation is a legacy far more valuable than any inheritance. I'm back in Milwaukee, running my business with a clearer, firmer boundary, no longer afraid to say, "No, that's my professional rate." If this story hit home, hit the like button, comment 1 below, and share your own story of fighting family exploitation. Subscribe for more. I'll be back soon with another tale.